The Conservative American Message, hosted by the one and only Cam Lau. It's Saturday, February 4th, 2023, and you can join me every week for the greatest political commentary known to man. Newsmax, the news network that has blown up in the last few years as being just to the right of Fox News, has now been dropped by DirectTV. A network called One American News, another conservative outlet, was also canceled last year. There are a lot of big names on the right flipping out about this. Even Trump spoke up, calling the canceling of Newsmax a big blow to the Republican Party and to America itself. Now, I might not be a big name on the right, but I'm surely on the right, and I do have a podcast, so I'm going to go ahead and speak the truth. Did Newsmax get canceled on DirectTV? Yes. But it was being replaced by a network called The First, which has some other big conservative names, including Bill O'Reilly. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that DirectTV was trying to silence conservatives in this instance. Don't get me wrong, I like Newsmax, but business is business, and if we want to hold on to the title of sanity on the right, we have to speak to the truth and promote the truth. I'm honestly ashamed of those that have come out so angrily against DirectTV over this. It's simply not political, so I had to set the record straight. Sorry to burst your balloon. Speaking of balloons, did you ever look up in the sky this week and see a big ol' espionage balloon from China? Because there was one. According to the Pentagon, the Chinese sent a spy balloon floating all the way across the country this week. China denies this and claims that it was a weather balloon for research that just lost its way. Most concerningly, it flew over secret underground military bases in Montana where the nuclear warheads are stored. So it would seem the Chinese would be very interested in that. But there has already been cases of the Chinese government buying land near our military bases and other government facilities. China actually owns about 190,000 acres of U.S. farmland. That's why 6 states have banned foreign nations from purchasing land. Those states are Hawaii, Iowa, Minnesota, Mississippi, North Dakota, and Oklahoma. Representative Dan Newhouse from Wisconsin has proposed a bill in the House to prohibit China from buying land, which seems reasonable, but as we know, Congress is never reasonable. We need to realize that China is the greatest threat to not only the United States, but to the entire world. But don't worry, we have a great commander-in-chief. Okay, so I know this is the conservative American message, but I'm going to talk a lot about Mexico today because this is an issue that's going to affect the United States greatly. And no, this isn't about the border, we'll save that for another day. The president of Mexico announced back in 2020 that he was going to ban genetically modified corn in the country by the year 2024. He has also banned the use of glyphosate. It's been estimated that these new policies will decrease Mexican corn yields by 30%, and all of this is being done without citing any scientific evidence, largely because there is none. Not everyone is familiar with GMOs, as it's sort of become a health buzzword, but it just so happens that I am quite familiar with the subject. GMOs, or rather genetically modified organisms, are organisms that have been altered by genetic engineering. For example, corn has been genetically modified throughout the years to be able to produce as many bushels as possible because the plant has traits that increase the yield and make it more resistant to pests. This is an absolute necessary component of the agriculture industry. Without GMOs, not only would the U.S. economy take a tumble, but the supply and cost of food would be negatively impacted greatly. Basically, people would starve to death. Also, when food is labeled non-GMO, there's no actual proof of that. The government doesn't regulate the label at all. I would really love to do a whole deep dive episode on those topics, so let me know if you guys would be interested in that. But anyway, Mexico accounts for about 3% of the corn grown in the world, while the US produces 34%. And so Mexico has to import $4.7 billion worth of corn every year. $21 million worth of that is from the United States. Mexico is the second largest importer of U.S. corn, only behind China. So that's almost 67 million bushels of U.S. corn that will no longer be exported to Mexico. As much as this is going to destroy the Mexican ag industry, we will basically be losing 1% of the world's entire corn production from Mexico, as well as losing a huge buyer of American corn. There have been many urging President Biden to intervene and stop our neighbors to the south from making this grave mistake. In Congress, they're trying to leverage trade agreements we have with Mexico to stop the policy, but it appears that 2024 is going to be a tough year for farmers. Well, that's all I have time for. Were you offended by this podcast? Good. If you want me to talk about something on the show, let me know at the Conservative American Message on Instagram or Facebook. Also, make sure to share the podcast with everyone you know. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate you all. Have a great week and stay conservative.